Hello, my dear hatchlings. It's Friday again. The time really goes fast. Hope you guys have a lovely day. And it's definitely gonna be interesting to see how this book is gonna end up because according to Google, it says it's only are 27 chapters. And if that's the case, that meaning that our last stream is gonna be the final chapter. It's gonna be interesting how it ends. Also, on a side note, the cat bed I got is really fluffy, and my cat's been fighting over it constantly. Well, to be fair, I had a friend calling my cats rats, and I'm like, they're no rats, they are fluff balls. So, yeah, if I can, I'm gonna buy another one of those beds so they can have two. Can you imagine it would be really cozy in the winter? Right now, when it's getting warm, maybe not so much, but And we're just gonna wait a little bit longer. There we go. Let's start, shall we? Let's see here. What? Accidentally clicked. That's not what I wanted. 295. I accidentally clicked a little. What's it called? I don't know what it's called in English. I cannot draw a blank of that. But it's like little on the sides when like you roll down and up. I accidentally clicked that one and it like sent me like 10 pages back, and I'm like, yay. Okay, that should be enough. Okay, let's see here. Okay, everybody, grab your snack and get comfortable. Chapter 24, Dr. Seward's Phonograph Diary, spoken by Van Helsing. This to Jonathan Hawker. You are to stay with your dear Madame Mina. We shall go to make our search. If I can call it so, for it's not a search but knowing, and we seek confirmation only. But do you stay and take care of her today? This is your best and most holiest office. This day nothing can find him here. Tell me, let me tell you that oh my god, let me tell you that so you will know that we foreknow already, for I have tell them. He, our enemy, have gone away. He have gone back to his castle in Transylvania. I know it so well, as if a great hand of fire wrote it on the wall. He has prepared for this in some way, and the last earth box was ready to ship somewhere. For this he took the money, for this he hurried at the least we catch him before the sun go down. It was his last hope, save that he might hide in the tomb that he think poor Miss Lucy, being, as he thought, like him, keep open to him. But there was not of time. When that failed, he makes straight for his last resource. His last earth work, I might say, did I wish double intent. He is clever, oh so clever. He knew that his game here was finished, and so he decided to go back home. He find ship going by the route he came, and he go in it. We go off now to find what ship and whither bound. When we have discovered that, we come back and tell you all. Then we will comfort you and poor Madame Mina with new hope, for it will be hope when you think it over, that it all is not lost. This very creature that we pursue, it takes hundreds of years to get so far as London, and yet in one day, when we know of the disposal of him, we drive him out. He is finited, though he is powerful to do much harm and suffer, not as we do, but we are strong, each in our purpose, and we are all more strong together. Take heart afresh, dear husband of Madame Mina. This battle is but begun, and in the end we shall win. So sure as the God sits on high to watch over his children. Therefore, be of much comfort, we shall return. Van Helsing. Jonathan Hawker's Journal, October 4th. When I read to Mina Van Helsing's message in the phonograph, the poor girl brightened up considerably. Already the certainty that the Count is out of the country has given her comfort, and comfort is strength to her. For my own part, now that his horrible danger is not face to face with us, it seems almost impossible to believe in it. Even my own terrible experience in Castle Dracula seemed like a long-forgotten dream. Here, in the crisp autumn air, in the bright sunlight, at last, how can I disbelieve in the midst of my thoughts? My eyes fell on the red scar on my poor darling's white forehead. Whilst that lasts, there can be no disbelief. Mina and I fear to be idle. So we have been over all the diaries again and again. Somehow, although the reality seemed greater each time, the pain and the fear seem less. There is something of a guiding purpose manifest throughout, which is comforting. Mina says that perhaps we are the instruments of ultimate good. It might be. I shall try to think as she does. We have never spoken to each other yet of the future. It is better to wait till we see the professor and the others after their investigation. The day is running by more quickly than I ever thought a day could run for me. For me again. It is now 3 o'clock. Mina Harker's Journal, October 5th, 5 p.m. Our meeting for report. Present. Professor Van Helsing, Lord Godalming, Dr. Seward, Mr. Quincy Morris, Jonathan Hawker, Mina Hawker. Dr. Van Helsing described what steps were taken during the day to discover on what boat and which were bound Count Dracula made his escape. As I knew that he wanted to get back to Transylvania, I felt sure that he must go by Danube mouth, or by somewhere in the Black Sea, since by that way he come. It was a dready blank that was before us. Omne ignotum pro magnifico. And so, with heavy heart, we start to find what ships leave for the Black Sea last time. Hello, Manuel. Also, side note, I like that I read the Latin words quite perfectly compared to Old English. I'm like, I think Latin is supposed to be older than Old English, but hey, maybe I have a, what do they call it? Oh my gosh. A hidden skill that I can read Latin. Oh, your graduation? From what? Oh yeah, that reminds me. Let's see here. Um, well, happy graduation. Any celebration? Let's see. Well, hopefully you're gonna have some nice celebration. Well, then you hopefully can grab the paper as soon as possible. In the meantime, you're free to listen to me reading. I'm sure that would be a nice distraction at the very least. But yeah, congratulations again on your graduation. Hopefully it's a wonderful day too. And on a Friday nonetheless. Oh, they timed that well. Okay, let's see. he was sailing. He was in sailing ship since Madame Mina tells of sails being set. They are now not so important as to go in your list of the shipping in the Times. And so we go, by suggestion of Lord Godalming, to your Lloyd's, where there are notes of all the ships and sails, however so small. There we find that only Black Sea bound ships go out with the tide. She is the Caesarian Katrine, and she sails from Doolittle's wharf of Varna, and see to the other ports and up the Downby. So said I, this is the ship whereon is the Count. So off we go to Doolittle's wharf, and where we find a man in an office. For him we acquired of the goings of the Katrina, Sarina Katrina. He swears much, and he saw red face and loud of voice, but he good fella all the same. And when Quincy gave him something from his pocket, which crackled as he rolled it up, and put it in a so small bag, which he have hid deep in his clothing, he still better fella and humble servant to us. He come with us and asked many men who are rough and hot. These be better fellows too, when they have been no more thirsty. They say much of blood and bloom, and of others which I comprehend not, though I guess what they mean, but nevertheless they tell us all things which we want to know. They make known to us among them how last afternoon at about 5 o'clock comes a man so hurry, a tall man, thin and pale, with high nose and teeth so white and eyes that seemed to be burning, that he be all in black. Expect that he have a hat of straw, which suit not him or the time, that he is scattered his money in making quick inquiry as to what ship sails for the Black Sea and for where. So took him to the office, and then to the ship, where he will not go aboard, but halt at shore end of a gangplank and asked the captain to come to him. The captain come when told that he will be paid well, and though he swear much, at first he agrees to term. Then the thin man go, and someone tell him where horse and cart can be hired. He go there, and soon he come again, himself driving cart on which a great box. This he himself lift down, though it takes several to put it on track for the ship. He give much talk to captain as to how and where his box is to be placed, but the captain like it not and swear at him in many tongues, and tell him that if he like he can come and see where it shall be. But he says no, that he come not yet, for that he have much to do. Whereupon the captain tell him that he had better be quick with blood, for that his ship will leave the place for blood, therefore turn of the tide with blood. Then the thin man smiled and says that of course he must go when he think fit, but he will be surprised if he go quick so soon. The captain swear again, polyglot, and the thin man make him bow and thank him and say that he will so far intrude on his kindness as to come aboard before the sailing. Finally the captain, more red than ever and in more tongues, tell him that he doesn't want no Frenchman with bloom upon them, and also with blood in his ship, with blood on her also. And so, after asking where he might pursue ship forms, he departed. No one knew where he went, or blooming well cared, as they said, for they had something else to think of. Well, this blood again, for it soon began apparent to all that Tsarina Katrina would not sail as well as was expected. A thin mist began to creep up from the river, and it grew and grew till soon a dense fog developed the ship and all around her. The captain swore polyglot, very polyglot with bloom and blood, but he could do nothing. The water rose and rose, and he began to fear that he would lose the tide altogether. He was in no friendly mood. When just at full tide, the thin man came up the gangplank again and asked to see where his box had been stowed. Then the captain replied that he wished that he and his box, old and with much bloom and blood, were in hell. But the thin man did not be offended, and went down with the mate and saw where it was placed, and came up and stood a while on deck in fog. He must have come off by himself, for none noticed him. Indeed, they thought not of him, for soon the fog began to melt away, and all was clear again. My friend of the thirst and language that was of bloom and blood laughed, as they told how the captain's swears exceeded even his usual polyglot, and was more than ever full of pipsqueak, picture squeak. One sec. It might be full of oh my gosh, picturesque, full of back off. Let me say this word, please. Full of picturesque, when on question other marines who were on the movement up and down the river that hour, he found that few of them had seen any of fog at all, except where it laid around the wharf. However, the ship went on to the ebbed tide, and was doubtless by morning far down the river mouth. She was then, when they told us, well out to sea. Wait, I did not glitch, okay? And so, my dear Madame Mina, it is that we have to rest for a time, for our enemy is on sea, with the fog at his command. On his way to the Danube mouth. To sail a ship takes time, go she never so quick, and when we start to go on land more quick, and we meet him there, our best hope is to come on him when in the box between sunrise and sunset, for then he can make no struggle, and we may deal with him as we should. There are days for us in which we can make ready our plan. We know all about where he go, for we have seen the owner of the ship, who have shown us invoices and all papers that can be. The box we seek is to be landed in the Varna and to be given to an agent. One restricts who will dare present his credentials, and so our merchant friend will have done his part. When he asks if there be any wrong, for that so he can telegraph and have inquiry made at Varna, we say no, for what it is to be done is not for police or for the customs. It must be done by us alone in our own way. When Dr. Van Helsing had done speaking, I asked him if he were certain that the Count had remained on board the ship. He replied, "We have the best proof of that, your own evidence. When in the hypnotic trance this morning, I asked him again if it were really necessary that we should pursue the Count, for I dread Jonathan leaving me, and I know that he would surely go if the others went." He answered in growing passion, at first quietly. As he went on, however, he grew more angry and more forceful, till the end we could not but see wherein was at least some of the personal dominance which made him so long a master among men. Yes, it is necessary, for your sake in the first, and then for the sake of humanity. This monster has done much harm already, in the narrow scope where he finds himself, and in the short time when as yet he was only as a body grouping his so small measure in darkness and not knowing. All this have I told these others, you and dear Madame Mina. I will learn it in the phonograph of my friend John, or in that of your husband. I have told them how the measure of leaving his own barren land, barren of people, and coming to a new land where life of men teems till they are like the multitude of standing corn, was the work of centuries, where another of the undead like him could try to do whatever he has done, perhaps not all the centuries of the world that have been, or that will be, could aid him. With this one all the forces of nature, and that the occult and the deep and strong must have worked together in some wondrous way. The very place where he had been alive, undead for all these centuries, is full of stagnance of the geological and chemical world. There were deep caverns and fissures at which no one wither. There have been volcanoes, some of whose opening will send out waters of strange properties and gases that kill or make to vivify. Vivify? Oh well. Doubtless there is something a woman? That is a simple word. One second, I'm gonna take a sip. Let's see here. Wait, one sec. Okay, I'm just making sure that the neighbor's sound outside my window is not picking up on the mic. Let's see. Where was I? Something magnetic or electric is in some of these combinations of occult forces which works for physical life in strange ways, and in himself were from the first some great qualities. In a hard and warlike time he was celebrated that he was more iron-nerved, more subtle-brained, and more brave-hearted than any man. In him some virtual principles have in strange ways found their utmost, and as his body kept strong and grew and thrived, so his brain grew too. All this without that diabolical aid, in which is surely to him, for it have to yield to the powers that come from and are symbolic of good. And now this is what he is to us. He have infected you. Oh, forgive me, my dear, that I must say such, but it is for good of you that I speak. He infected you in such wise. In such a wise that even if he do no more, you have only to live in your own old sweet way, and so in time death, which is of man's common lot, and with God's sanction, shall make you like to him. This must not be. We have sworn together that it must not. Thus are we ministers of God's own wish, that the world and men for whom his Son died will not be given over to monsters whose very existence would deflame him. He have allowed us to redeem one soul already, and we go out as the old knights of the cross to redeem more. Like them we shall travel towards the sunrise, and like them, if we fall in good cause. He paused, and I said, "But will not the Count take his rebuff wisely? Since he has been driven from England, will he not avoid it? as a tiger does the village from which he has been hunted. Ah, he said, you smile of the tiger good for me, and I shall adopt him. Your man-eater, as they of India call the tiger who has once tasted blood of the human, care no more for other praise, but prowl unceasing until he get him. This that he hunt for our village is a tiger too, a man-eater, and he never cease to prowl, nay, in himself he is not one to retire and stay afar. In his life, his living life, he go over the Turkey frontier and attack his enemy on his own ground. He be beaten back, but did he stay? No, he come again and again and again. Look at his persistence and endurance. With the sharp brain that was to him, he have long since conceived the idea of coming to a great city. What does he do? He find out the place of all world most. He find out the place of all the world most of promise for him. Then he deliberately set himself down to prepare for the task. He find in patience just how is his strength and what are his powers. He studied new tongues and learned new social life, new environments of old ways, the politics, the law, the finances, the science, the habit of a new land and a new people who have come to be since he was. He glimpsed that he have had whet his appetite only and a keen his desire, nay, it helped him to grow as to his brain, for it all proved to him how right he was at the first in his summers. He have done this alone, all alone, from a ruined tomb in a forgotten land. Yeah, it probably dusted that tomb too. Oh, oh. Goodness. Mm. Oh, that was a horrible sneeze. What more may he not do when the greatest world of thought is open to him? He that can smile at that death, as we know him, who can flourish in the midst of disease that kills off whole peoples. Oh, if such an one was to come from God and not the devil, what a force of good might he not be in this old world of ours? But we are plagued to set the world free. Our toil must be in silence, and our efforts all in secret, for in this enlightenment age, when men believe not when what they see, the doubting of wise men would be his greatest strength. It would be at once his sheath and his armor and his weapons to destroy us, his enemies who are willing to peril even at our own souls, for the safety of one we love, for the good of mankind and for the honor and glory of God. After a general discussion, it was all determined that for tonight nothing be definitely settled, that we should all sleep on the facts and try to think out the proper conclusions tomorrow at breakfast we are to meet again, and after making our conclusions known to one another, we shall decide on some definite course of action. I feel a wonderful peace and rest tonight. It is as if some haunting presence were removed from me. Perhaps my summers was not finished, could not be, for I caught sight in the mirror of the red mark upon my forehead, and I knew that I was still unclean. Dr. Seward's Diary, October 5th. We all arose early, and I think that sleep did much for each and all of us. We were met at early breakfast. There were more general cheerfulness than any of us had ever expected to experience again. It is really wonderful how much resilience there is in human nature. Let any obscuring cause, no matter what, be removed in any way, even by death, and we fly back to first principles of hope and enjoyment. More than once, as we sat around the table, my eyes open in wonder wherever the whole of the past days had not been a dream. It was only when I caught sight of the red blotch on Mrs. Harker's forehead that I was brought back to reality. Even now, when I was gravely revolving the matter, it is almost impossible to realize that the cause of all our troubles is still existent. Even Mrs. Hawker seemed to lose sight of her trouble for whole spells. It is only now and again, when something recalls in her mind, that she thinks of her terrible scar. We are to meet here in my study in half an hour, and decide our course of action. I see only one immediate difficulty, and know it by instinct rather than reason. We shall have to speak frankly, and yet in fear that in some mysterious way poor Mrs. Hawker's tongue is tied. I know that she forms conclusions of her own, and from all that has been I can guess how brilliant and how true they must be, but she will not and cannot give them utterance. I have mentioned this to Van Helsing, and he and I are to talk it over when we are alone. I suppose it is some of that horrid poison which has got into her veins beginning to work. The Count had his own purpose when he gave her what Van Helsing called the vampire's baptism of blood. Well, there may be a poison that distills itself out of good things. In the age when the existence of, oh dear Lord, let's see here, potomanes is a mystery, we should not wonder at anything. One thing I know, that if my instincts be true regarding poor Mrs. Hawker's silence, and there is a terrible difficulty, an unknown danger in the work before us, the same power that compels her silence may compel her speech. I dare not think further, for so I should in my thoughts dishonor a noble woman. Later, when the professor came in, we talked over the state of things. I could see that he had something on his mind, what he wanted to say, but I felt some hesitation about broaching the subject. After beating around about the bush, a little, he said, "Friend John, there is something that you and I must talk of alone. Just at the first, at any rate. Later we may have to take the others into our confidence. Then he stopped. So I waited, and he went on. Madame Mina, our poor dear Madame Mina, is changing. A cold shiver ran through me. To find my worst fears thus endorsed, Van Helsing continued. With the sad experience of Miss Lucy, we must this time be warned before things go too far. Our task is now in reality more difficult than ever, and this new trouble makes every hour of the arrest important. I can see the characteristic of the vampire coming in her face. It is now but very, very slight, but it is to be seen if we have eyes to notice without prejudge. Her teeth are sharper, and at times her eyes are more hard. But there are not all. There is too her silence now often, as so it was with Miss Lucy. She did not speak, even when she wrote which she wished to be known later. Now my theory is this: if it is that she can, by our hypnotic trance, tell that the Count see and hear, is it not more true that he who have hypnotized her first, and who have drink of her very blood, and make her drink of his, should, if he will, compel her mind to disclose to him what which she know? And nodded accuracy, he went on. Then what we must do is to prevent this. We must keep her ignorance of our intent, and so that she cannot tell what she know not. This is painful task, oh so painful that it's heartbreaking to me to think of it. But it must be. When today we meet, I must tell her that for reasons which we will not speak, she must not more be of our counsel, but simply guarded by us. He wiped his forehead, which had broken out in profuse perspiration at the thought of the pain which he might have to inflict upon the poor soul already so tortured. I knew that it would be some sort of comfort to him if I told him that I also had to come to the same conclusion, for at any rate it would take away the pain of doubt. I told him, and the effect was the expected. It is now close to the time of our general gathering. Van Helsing has gone away to prepare for the meeting and his painful part of it. I really believe his purpose is to be able to pray alone. Later, at the very outset of our meeting, a great personal relief was experienced by both Van Helsing and myself. Mrs. Hawke had sent a message by her husband to say that she would not join us at present, as she thought it better that we should be free to discuss our movements without her presence to embarrass us. The professor and I looked at each other for an instant, and somehow we both seemed relieved. For my own part, I thought that if Mrs. Hawker realized the danger herself, it was much pain as well as much danger averted. Under the circumstances, we agreed by a questioning look and answered with a finger on lip, to preserve silence in our suspicion until we should have been able to confer alone again. We went at once into our plan of campaign. Van Helsing roughly put the fact before us first that Tsarina Katrina left the Tamas yesterday morning, and we'll take her at the quick speed she has ever made, at least 3 weeks to reach Varna, but we can travel overland to the same place in 3 days. Now, if we allow for 2 days less for the ship Voyager, owing to such weather influence as we know that the Count can bring to bear, and if we allow a whole day and night for any delay which may occur to us, then we have a margin of nearly 2 weeks. Thus, in order to be quite safe, must leave here at 7th at latest. Then we shall at any rate be in Varna a day before the ship arrives, and able to make such preparation as may be necessary. Of course, we shall all go armed against evil things, spiritual as well as physical. Here, Quincy Morris added, I understand that the Count comes from a wolf country, and it may be that he shall get there before us. I propose that we add Winchester to our armament. I have a kind of belief in a Winchester when there is any trouble of that sort around. Do you remember, Art, when we had the pack after us at Tobolsk, and we wouldn't have given them for a repeater a piece? Good, said Van Helsing. Winchester it shall be. Quincy's head is level at times, but most so when there is to hunt. Metaphor be more dishonor to science than wolf be of danger to man. In the meantime, we can do nothing here, and as I think that Varna is not familiar to any of us, why not go there? Why not go there more soon? It is as long to wait here as there. Tonight and tomorrow we can get ready, and then, if all be well, we four can set out on our journey. We four? Said Hawker interrogatively, looking from one to another of us. Of course, answered Professor quickly. You must remain to take care of your sweet wife. Parker was silent for a while, and then said in a hollow voice, Let us talk of the part of it in the morning. I want to consult with Mina. I thought that now was the time for Van Helsing to warn him not to disclose our plans to her, but he took no notice. I looked at him significantly and coughed. For an answer, he put his finger to his lips and turned away. Jonathan Harker's journal, October 5th, afternoon. For some time after our meeting this morning, I could not think. The new phases of things leave my mind in a state of wonder which allows no room for active thought. Mina's determination not to take any part in the discussion set me thinking, and as I could not argue the matter with her, I could only guess. I am as far as ever from a solution now. The way the other received it too puzzled me. The last time we talked of the subject, we agreed that there was not to be more concealment of anything among us. Mina is sleeping now, calmly and sweetly, like a little child. Her lips are curved and her face beamed with happiness. Thank God, there are such moments still for her. Later, how strange it all is. I sat watching Mina's happy sleep, and I came as near to being happy myself as I suppose I shall ever be. As the evening drew on, and the earth took its shadows from the sun sinking lower, the silence of the room grew more and more solemn to me. All at once Mina opened her eyes and looked at me tenderly, said, Jonathan, I want you to promise me something on your word of honor. A promise made to me, but made holily in God's hearing, and not to be broken, though I should go down on my knees and implore you with bitter tears. Quick, you must make it to me at once. Oh. Mina, I said, a promise like that I cannot make it once. I may have no right to make it. But dear one, she said, in such a spiritual intensity that her eyes were like pole stars, it is I who wish it, and it is not for myself. You can ask Dr. Van Helsing if I am not right. If he disagree, you may do as you will, nay, more, if you all agree. Lady, you are absolved from the promise. I promise, I said, and for a moment she looked supremely happy. The thought, to me all happiness for her was denied by the red scar on her forehead. He said, promise me that you will not tell me anything of the plans formed for the campaign against the Count, not a word, or interference, or implications. Not at any time whilst this remains to me. And she solemnly pointed to the scar. I saw that she was in earnest and said solemnly, I promise. And as I said it, I felt that from that instant a door had been shut between us. Later, midnight. Mina has been bright and cheerful all evening, so much so that all the rest seems to take courage, as if infected somewhat with her gaiety. As a result, even I myself felt as if the pall of gloom which weighed us down were somewhat lifted. We all retired early. Mina is now sleeping like a little child. It is a wonderful thing that her faculty of sleep remains to her in the midst of her terrible trouble. Thank God for it, for then at least she can forget her care. Perhaps her example may affect me as a gaiety did today. I shall try it. Oh, for a dreamless sleep. Why was I going to say dressless? Okay, let's continue. October 6th, morning. Another surprise. Mina woke me up early, about the same time as yesterday, and asked me to bring Dr. Van Helsing. I thought that it was another occasion of, oops, let me do that. There we go. Thought it was another occasion of hypnotism, and without question went for the professor. He had evidently expected some such call, for I found him dressed in his room. His door was ajar, so that he could hear the opening of the door of our room. He came at once. As he passed into the room, he asked Mina if the others might come too. No, she said quite simply, it will not be necessary. You can tell them just as well. I must go with you on your journey. Dr. Van Helsing was as startled as I was. After a moment's pause, he asked, but why? You must take me with you. I am safer with you, and you shall be safer too. But why, dear Madame Mina? You know that your safety is our solemnest duty. We go into danger to which you are, or may be, more liable than any of us from circumstances, things that have been. He paused, embarrassed. As she replied, she raised her finger and pointed to her forehead. I know. That is why I must go. I shall tell you now, whilst the sun is coming up. I may not be able to again. I know when the Count wills me, I must go. I know that if he tells me to come in secret, I must, by any device, to hook-wink even Jonathan. God saw the look that she turned on me as she spoke, and if there be indeed a recording angel that look is noted to her everlasting honor. I could only clasp her hand. I could not speak. My emotions were too great for even the relief of tears. She went on. You men are brave and strong. You are strong in your numbers, for you can defy that which would break down the human endurance of one who had to guard alone. Besides, I may be of service, since you can hypnotize me, and so learn that which even I myself do not know. Dr. Van Helsing said bravely, Madame Mina, you are, as always, most wise. You shall with us come, and together we shall do that which we go forth to achieve. When he had spoken, Mina's long spell of silence made me look at her. She had fallen back to her pillow asleep. She did not even wake when I had pulled up the blinds and let in the sunlight which flooded the room. Van Helsing motioned to me to come with him quietly. We went to his room, and within a minute Lord Godalming and Dr. Seward and Mr. Morris were in us also. He told me that what Mina had said, and went on. In the morning we shall all leave for Varna. We have now to deal with a new factor, Madame Mina. Oh, but her soul is true. It is to her an agony to tell us so much as she has done, but it is most right, and we are warned in time. There must be no chance lost, and in Varna we must be ready to act that instant where the ship arrives. What shall we do exactly? Asked Mr. Morris loungily. The professor paused before replying. We shall, at first, board the ship. Then, we have identified the box, and we shall place a branch of the wild rose. Wild rose on it. This we shall fasten, for when it is where none can emerge, so that at least say the superstition, and to superstition must we trust at first. It was man's fate in the early, and it was its root in fate still. Then, when we can get the opportunity that we seek, when none are near to see, we shall open the box, and all will be well. I shall not wait for any opportunity, said Morris. When I see the box, I shall open it and destroy the monster, though there were 1,000 men looking on. And if I am to be wiped out of this, out of it the next moment, I grasped his hand instinctively and found it as firm as a piece of steel. I think he understood my look, and I hoped he did. Good boy, said Dr. Van Helsing. Brave boy. Quincy is old man. Good. God bless him for it, my child. Believe me, none of us shall lag behind or pause from any fear. I do but say what we may do, what we must do. But indeed, we cannot say what we may do. There are so many things which may happen, and their way and their end are so various that until the moment we may not say, we shall all be armed in all ways, and when the time for the end has come, our efforts shall not be lack. Now let us today put all our affairs in order. Let all things which touch on another dear to us, and who on us depend, be complete, for none of us can tell what or when or how the end may be. As for me, my own affairs are regulated, and as I have nothing else to do, I shall go make arrangements for the travel. I shall have all tickets and so forth for our journey. There was nothing further to be said, and we parted. I shall now settle up all my affairs of earth and be ready for whatever may come. Later, it is done. My will is made and all complete. Mina, if she survives, is my sole heir. If it should not be so, then the others who have been so good to us shall have a reminder. It is now drawing towards the sunset. Mina's uneasiness calls my attention to it. I am sure that there is something on her mind which the time of exact sunset will reveal. These occasions are becoming harrowing times for us all, for each sunrise and sunset opens up some new danger, some new pain, which, however may in God's will be means to a good end. I write all these things in the diary, since my darling must not hear them now. But if it may be that she can see them again, they shall be ready. She is calling to me. Okay, let's see. Chapter 25. Chapter 25th. Dr. Seward's Diary. October 11th. Evening. Jonathan Hawker has asked me to notice, as he says he is hardly equal to the task, and he wants an exact record kept. I think that none of us were surprised when we were asked to see Mrs. Hawker's a little before the time of sunset. We have late come to understand that sunrise and sunset are to her times of peculiar freedom, when her old self can be manifested without any controlling force subduing or restraining her, or initiating her to action. This mood or condition begins some half hour or so before actual sunrise or sunset, and lasts till either the sun is high or whilst the clouds are still aglow with the rays streaming above the horizon. At first, there is a sort of negative condition, as if some tie were loosened, and then the absolute freedom quickly follows. When, however, the freedom ceases, the chains back or relapse come quickly, preceded only by a spell of warning silence. Tonight, when we met, she was somewhat constrained and bore all the signs of an internal struggle. I put it down myself to her making a violent effort at the earnest instant she could do so. A very few minutes, however, gave her complete control of herself, then motioned her husband to sit beside her on the sofa, where she was half reclined. She made the rest of us bring chairs up close. Taking her husband's hand in hers, she began, "We are all here together in freedom. For perhaps the last time, I know that you will always be with me to the end." This was to her husband, whose hand had, as we could see, tightened upon her. In the morning we go out upon our task, and God alone knows what may be in store for any of us. You are going to be so good to me to take me with you. I know that all that brave, earnest man can do for a poor, weak woman whose soul perhaps is lost. No, not yet, but at any rate at stake, you will do. But you must remember that I am not as you are. There is poison in my... Let's see. There is poison in my blood, in my soul, which may destroy me, which must destroy me unless some relief come to us. Oh, my friends, you know as well as I do that my soul is at stake. And though I know where there is only way out of me, you must not, and I must not take it. She looked appealing to us all in turn, beginning and ending with her husband. "What is that way?" asked Van Helsing in a hoarse voice. "What is that way which we may not take? That I may die now, either by my own hands or that of another before the greater evil is entirely wronged. I know, and you know, that where I once dead, you could and would set free my immortal spirit, even as you did my poor Lucy's. Were death, or the fear of death, the only thing that stood in the way, I would not shrink to to die here now and miss the friends who love me. But death is not all. I cannot believe that to die in such a case, where there is hope before us and bitter tasks to be done. This God's will, therefore, on my part, give up here and certainty of eternal rest, and go out into the dark where there may be the blackest thing that the world or the netherworld holds. We were in all silent, for we knew instinctively that this was only a prelude. The faces of the others were set, and Hawkins grew ashen grey. Perhaps he guessed better than any of us what was coming. She continued, This is what I can give into the hodgepodge. I could not put note the quaint legal phrase which she used in such a place, and with all seriousness, what will each of you give? Your lives I know, she went on quickly. That is easy for brave men. Your lives are God's, and you can give them back to him. But what will you give to me? She looked again questioningly, but this time avoided her husband's face. Quincy seemed to understand, and he nodded, and her face lit up. Then I shall tell you plainly what I want. For there must be no doubtful matters in this connection between us now. You must promise me, one and all, even you, my beloved husband, that should the time come, you will kill me. What is that time? The voice was Quincy's, but it was slow and strained. When you shall be convinced that I am so changed that it is better that I die than I may live. When I am thus dead in the flesh, then you will, without a moment's delay, drive a stake through me and cut my head, or do whatever else may be wanting to give me rest. Quincy was first to rise after the pause. He kneeled down before her, and taking her hand in his, and said solemnly, I only a rough fella who hasn't perhaps lived as a man should to win such a distinction, but I swear to you by all that I hold sacred and dear, that should the time ever come, I shall not flinch from the duty that you have set us, and I promised you too that I shall make all certain, for if I am only doubtful, I shall take it that the time has come. My true friend, was all she could say amidst her fast falling tears, as bending over and kissed his hand. I swear the same, my dear Madame Mina, said Van Helsing, and I, said Lord Godalming. Each of them in turn kneeled to her to take the oath. I followed myself. Then her husband turned to her, worn-eyed and with the greyish pallor which subdued the snowy whiteness of his hair, and asked, And must I too make such a promise, O my wife? You too, my dearest, she said, with infinite yearning of pity in her voice and eyes. You must not shrink. You are nearest and dearest, and all the world to me. Our souls are knit into one for all life and all time. Think, dear, that there have been times when brave men have killed their wives and their womankind to keep them from falling into the hands of the enemy. Their hands did not falter any more because those that they loved implored them to slay them. It is men's duty towards those whom they love in such time of sore trial. And oh, my dear, if it is to be that I must meet death at any hand, let it be at the hand of him that loved me best. Dr. Van Helsing, I have not forgotten your mercy in poor Lucy's case to him who loved. She stopped with a flying blush and changed her phrase, to him who had best right to give her peace. If that time shall come again, I look to you to make it a happy memory of my husband's life, that it was his loving hand which set me free from the awful thrall upon me. Again, I swear, came the professor's resonated voice. Mr. Hawker smiled, positively smiled, as with a sigh of relief. She leaned back and said, and now, one word of warning, a warning which you must never forget. This time, if it ever come, may come quickly and unexpectedly, and in such case you must lose no time in which lose no time in using your opportunity. At such a time I myself might be, nay, if the time ever come, shall be leagued with your enemy against you. One more request, she began very solemnly as she said this. It is not vital and necessarily like the others, but I want you to do one thing for me, if you will. We all acquiesced, but no one spoke. There was no need to speak. I want you to read the burial service. She was interrupted by a deep groan from her husband. Taking his hand in hers, she held it over her heart and continued, you must read it over me some day, whenever may be the issue of all this fearful state of things. It will be a sweet thought to all or some of us. You, my dearest, will I hope read it, for then I will be in your voice, in my memory forever, come what may. But oh, my dear one, he pleaded, death is afar off from you. Nay, she said, holding up a warning hand, I am deeper in death at this moment than if the weight of a earthly grave laid heavy upon me. Oh, my wife, must I read it? He said, before he began. It would comfort me, my husband, was all she said, and he began to read when she had got the book ready. How could anyone tell of that strange scene, its solemnitude, its gloom, its sadness, its horror, and withal its sweetness, even a sceptic who can see nothing but a traversity of bitter truth in anything holy or emotional, would have been melted to the heart had he seen that little group of loving and devoted friends kneeling around that stricken and sorrowing lady, or heard the tender passion of her husband's voice as it tones so broken and emotional that often he had to pause. He read the simple and beautiful service of the burial of the dead. I cannot go on. Words and voices fails me. He was right in her instinct, strange as it was, bizarre as it may hereafter seem, even to us who felt it potent influence at time. It conformed us much, and the silence which showed Mrs. Harker's coming relapse from her freedom of soul did not seem so fully of despair to any of us as we had dreaded. Jonathan Harker's journal, October 15, Varna. We left Charing Cross on the morning of the 12th, got to Paris the same night, and took the places secured for us in Orient Express. We travelled night and day, arriving here at about 5 o'clock. Lord Godalming went to the consulate to see if any telegram had arrived for him, whilst the rest of us came to this hotel, the Odysseus. The journey may have had incidents. I was, however, too eager to get on to care for them until the Tsarian Katrina comes into the port. There'll be no interest for me in anything in the wide world. Thank God, Mina is well, and looks to be getting stronger. Her color is back again. She sleeps a great deal throughout the journey. She slept nearly all the time. Before sunrise and sunset, however, she is very wakeful and alert, and it has become a habit for Van Helsing to hypnotize her at such times. At first, some effort was needed, and he had to make many passes, but now she seemed to yield at once, as if by habit, and scarcely any action is needed. He seems to have power of these particular moments to simply will, and her thought obey him. He always asked her what you can see and hear. She answered to the first, nothing, all is dark. Second, I can hear the waves lapping against the ship, and the water rushing by, canvas and cordage stains and masts and yards creak. The wind is high, I can hear it in the shouts, and the bow threw back and forth, back the foam. It's evident that Tsarina Katrina is still at sea, hastening on her way to Varna. Lord Godalming has just returned. He had 4 telegrams, one each day since we started, and all the same effect, that Tsarina Katrina had not been reported to loyalists from anywhere. He had arranged before leaving London that his agent could send him every day a telegram saying if the ship had been reported. He was to have a message even if he was not reported, so that he might be sure that there was a watch being kept at the other end of the wire. We had dinner and went to bed early. Tomorrow we are to see the Vice Consul, and to arrange, if we can, about getting on board the ship as soon as she arrives. Van Helsing says that our chances will be to get on the boat between sunrise and sunset. Count, even if it takes the form of a bat, cannot cross the running water of his own volition, and so cannot leave the ship, as it dares not change to man's form without superstition, which he evidently wishes to avoid. He must remain in the box. If then we can come on board after sunrise, he is at our mercy, for we can open the box and make sure of him as we did of poor Lucy before he wakes. What mercy he shall get from us all will not count for much. We think that we shall not have much trouble with officials or the seamen. Thank God, this is the country where bribery can do anything, and we are well supplied with money. We have only to make sure that the ship, let's see, make sure that the ship cannot come into port between sunset and sunrise without our being warned, and we shall be safe. And one moment, I'm just gonna be real quick. There we go, I'm back again. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Judge Moneybank will settle this case, I think. October 16th. Mina's report. Still the same. They lapsing waves and rushing water, darkness and favoring winds. We are evidently in good times, and we can hear of the Tsarina Katrina. We shall be ready, as she must pass the Girdle Islands. We are sure to have some report. October 17th. Everything is pretty well fixed now. I think to welcome the Count on his return from his tour, Godalming told the shippers that he fancied that the box sent aboard might be contained something stolen from a friend of his, and got a half consent that he might open it at his own risk. The owner gave him a paper telling the captain to give him every faculty in doing whatever he chose on board the ship, and also a similar authorization to his agent at Varna. We have seen the agent, who was much impressed with Godalming's kindly manners to him, and we are all satisfied that whenever he can do to aid our wishes will be done. We have already arranged that to do in case we get the box open. If the Count is there, Van Helsing and Seward will cut off his head at once and drive a stake through his heart. Morris and Godalming and I shall prevent interference. Even if we have to use the arms which we shall have ready. The professor says that if we can so treat the Count's body, it will soon have fallen to dust. In such case there would be no evidence against us, in case any suspicion of murder were aroused. But even if there were not, we should stand or fall by our act, or perhaps someday this very script may be evident to come between some of us and a rope. For myself, I should take the chances only to thankfully, if it were to come. We means to leave no stone unturned to carry out our intent. We have arranged with certain officials that the instant of Sarvina Katrina is seen, we are to be informed by a special message. October 24th. A whole week of waiting. Daily telegram to Godalming, but only the same story, not yet reported. Mina's morning and evening hypnotic answers is unvaried. Lapsing waves, rushing water, creaking masts. Telegram, October 24th. Rufus Spiff, Lordlis, London, to Lord Godalming, care of HBM Vice Councillor Varna. Sarina Katrina reported this morning for Dardanelles. Dr. Seward's diary, October 25th. How I missed my phonograph. To write a diary with a pen is irksome to me. But Van Helsing says I must. We were all wild with excitement yesterday when Godalming got his telegram from Lloyd's. And now what men feel in battle when the call for action is heard. Mrs. Hawkers, alone of our party, did not show any signs of emotions after all. It is not strange that she did not, for we took special care not to let her know anything about it, and we all tried not to show any excitement when we were in her presence. In old days she would, I am sure, have noticed, no matter how we might have tried to conceal it. But in this way she is greatly changed during the past 3 weeks. The lethargy grows upon her, and though she seems strong as well, and is getting back some of her color, Van Helsing and I are not satisfied. We talked of her often. We have not, however, said a word to the others. It will break poor Harker's heart. Certainly his nerves. If he knew that we had even a suspicion on the subject. Van Helsing examines, he tells me, her teeth very carefully while she is in the hypnotic condition. For he says that so long as they do not begin to sharpen, there is no active danger of change in her. If this change should come, it would be necessary to take steps. We both know what steps would have to be, though we do not mention our thoughts to the others. We should neither of us shrink from the task, awful though it be to contemplate. A euthanasia is an excellent and comforting word. I'm grateful for whoever invented it. It is only about 24-hour sails from Dardanelles to here. At the rate that Sarina Katrina has come from London, she could therefore arrive sometime in the morning, but as she cannot possibly get in before noon, we are all about to retire early. We shall get up at 1 o'clock as to be ready. October 25th, noon. No news yet of the ship's arrival. Mrs. Hawker's hypnotic report this morning was the same as usual, so it is possible that we may get news at any moment. We men are all in fever of excitement, except Hawker, who is calm. His hands are cold as ice, and an hour ago I found him wetting the bed. Oh wait, weakening the edge of a great Yorking knife, which he now always carry with him. It will be a bad lookout for the Count if the edge of the cucurine ever touched his throat, driven by the stern ice-cold hand. Van Helsing and I were a little alarmed about Mrs. Hawkers today, but noon she got into a sort of lethargic, which we did not like. Although we kept silent to the others, we were neither of us happy about it. She had been restless all morning, so that we were at first glad to know that she was sleeping. When, however, her husband mentioned casually that she was sleeping so soundly that he could not wake her, we went to her room to see for herself. She was breathing naturally and looked so well and peaceful that we agreed that the sleep was better for her than anything else. Poor girl. She has so much to forget that is no wonder than sleep, if it brings oblivion to her. Does her good. Later. Our opinion was justified, for when, after a refreshing sleep of some hours, she woke up, she seemed brighter and better than she had been for days. At sunset, she made the usual hypnotic report. Wherever she may be in the Black Sea, the Count is hurrying to his destination, to his doom, I trust. October 26th. Another day, and no tidings of the Tsarina Katrina. She ought to be here by now. That she is still yearning somewhere is apparent. Mr. Hawker's hypnotic report at sunrise was still the same. It is possible that the vessel may be lying by at times for fog. Some of the steamers which came in last evening reported parched of fog both to the north and south of the port. We must continue our watching, as the ship may now be signaled by any moment. October 27. Noon. Most strange. No news yet of the ship we were waiting for. Mrs. Hawker's report last night and this morning are usual, lapsing waves and rushing water, though she added that the waves were very faint. Telegram from London has been the same, no further report. Van Helsing is terribly anxious and told me just now that he fears the Count is escaping us. He added significantly, I did not like the lethargic of Madame Mina's. Souls and memories can do strange things during trance. I was about to ask him more, but Hawker just then came in and he helped up a warning hand. We must try tonight at sunset to make her speak more fully when in her hypnotic state. October 28th. Telegram. Rufus Smith, London, to Lord Godalming, Care HBM, Vice Consul Varna. Sarina Katrina reported entering Galatz at 1 o'clock today. Dr. Seward's diary, October 28th. When the telegram came announcing the arrival in Galatz, I do not think it was such a shock to any of us as might have been expected. True, we did not know where or how or when the boat would come, but I think we all expected that something strange would happen. The day of arrival at Varna made us individually satisfied that things would not be just as we had expected. We only waited to learn where the change would occur. Nonetheless, however, it was surprised. I suppose the nature works on such a hopeful basis that we believed against ourselves that things will be as they ought to be, not as we should know that they will be. Transcendentalism is a beacon to the angels, even if it be a will-o'-the-wisp to man. Van Helsing raised his hand over his head for a moment, as though in remonstration with the Almighty, but he said not a word, and in a few seconds stood up with his face sternly set. Lord Godalming grew very pale and sat breathing heavily. I was myself half stunned and looked in wonder at one and another. Quincy Morris tightened his belt with a quick movement which I knew so well in our old wandering days. It meant action. Mr. Hawkins grew ghastly white, so that the scar on her forehead seemed to burn, but she folded her hands meekly and looked up in peril. Walker actually smiled, the dark, bitter smile of one who is without hope, but at the same time his action belied his work, for his hand instinctively sought the hilt of the great kukuri knife and rested there. When does the next train start for Galatz? Said Van Helsing to us, generally. At 6:30 tomorrow morning, we all started for the answer came from Mrs. Hawker. How on earth do you know? Said Art. You forget, or perhaps you do not know, though Jonathan does and so does Dr. Van Helsing, that I am the train friend. At home in Exeter, I always used to make up the timetables, so as to be helpful to my husband. I found it so useful sometimes that I always make a study of the timetables now. I knew that if anything were to take us to Castle Dracula, we should go by Galatz, or at any rate through Bucharest. So I learned the times very carefully. Unhappily, there are not many to learn, as the only train tomorrow leaves, as I say. Wonderful woman, murmured Professor. Can't we get a special? Asked Lord Godalming. Van Helsing shook his head. I fear not. This land is very different from yours or mine. Even if we did have a special, it would probably not arrive as soon as our regular train. Moreover, we have something to prepare. We must think. Now let's organize. You, friend Arthur, go to the train and get the tickets and arrange that all be ready for us to go in the morning. Do you, friend Jonathan, go to get the agent of the ship and get from him letters to the agent in Galas, with authority to make a search of the ship, just as it was here. Quincy Morris, you can see the vice consul and get his aid with his fellow in Galas, and all he can do to make our way smooth, so that no time be lost when over the Danube. John will stay with Madame Mina and me, and we shall consult. For so, if time be long, you may be delayed, and will not matter when the sun set, since I am here with Madame to make report. And I, said Mrs. Hawkers brightly, and more like her old self than he had been for many long days, shall try to be of use in all ways, and shall think and write for you as I used to do. Something is shifting from me in some strange way, and I feel freer than I have been of late. The three younger men looked happier at the moment, as they seemed to realize the significance of her word, but Van Helsing and I turned to each other and met each a grave and troubled glance. We said nothing at the time, however. When the three men had gone out to their task, Van Helsing asked Mrs. Hawkers to look up the copy of the diaries and find him the path of Hawkers' journal at the castle. She went away and get it. When the door was shut upon her, he said to me, "We mean the same. Speak out. Here is some change. It is a hope that makes me sick, for it may deceive us." "Quite so. Do you know why I asked her to get the manuscript?" "No," I said. Unless it was to get an opportunity of seeing me alone. You are in part right, friend John, but only in part. I want to tell you something, and oh, my friend, I am taking a great and terrible risk, but I believe it is right. In the moment when Madame Mina said those words that arrest both our understanding, an inspiration came to me. In the trance of 3 days ago, the Count sent her his spirit to read her mind, or more like he took her to see him in his earth box in the ship with water rushing, just as he got free at rise and set of sun. He learned then that we were here, for she have more to tell in her open life, with eyes to see, ears to hear than he. Shut as he is in his coffin box, now he makes his most effort to escape us. At present, he want her not. He is sure, with his so great knowledge, that he will come to his call, but he cut her off. Take her as he can do, out of his own power, that so he come not to him. Ah, there I have hope that our main brains, that have been of man so long, that have not lost the grace of God, will come higher than his shadowed brain that lies in tomb for centuries, then grow not yet to our stature, and that do only work selfish and therefore small. Here comes Madame Mina. Not a word to her of her trance. She knows it not, and it would overwhelm her and make despair just when we want all her hope, all her courage, when most we want all her great brain, which is trained like a man's brain, but is of sweet woman and have a special power will the Count give her, and which he may not take away altogether. Though he thinks not so, hush, let me speak, and you shall learn, O John, my friend. We are in awful strains. I fear as I never feared before. We can only trust the good God. Silence. Here she comes. I thought that the professor was going to break down and have a hysteric, just as he had when Lucy died, but with a great effort he controlled himself and was at perfect nervous poise when Mr. Hawkers tripped into the room, and looking, bright and happy looking, and in doing of work seemingly forgetful of her misery. As she came in, she handed a number of sheets of typewriting to Van Helsing. He looked over them gravely, his face brightened up as he read. Then, holding a page between his finger and tongue, he said, "Friend John, do you read so much experience already? And you too, dear Madame Bina. That are young, here is a lesson. Do not fear ever to think. A half-thought has been buzzing often in my brain, but I fear not to let him lose his wings. Here now, with more knowledge, I go back to where that half-thought come from, and I find that he be not half through at all, that be a whole thought so young that he is not yet strong to use his little wings, nay, like the ugly duck of my friend Hans Andersen. He be no duck though at all, but a big swan through that sail nobly on big wings. When the time comes for him to try them, see I read here what Jonathan have written. That others of his race who, in a later age, again and again, brought his force over the great river into Turkey land, who when he was beaten back come again and again and again, though he had to come alone for the bloody field where his troops were being slaughtered, since he knew that he alone could ultimately triumph. What does this tell us? Not much, no. The Count's child, through seeing nothing, therefore he speaks so free. Your man, though see nothing, my man, though see nothing, till just now, no. But there comes another word from someone who speaks without thought, because she, too, knows not what it means. What it might mean, just as there are elements which rest, yet there is nature's course. They move on. They move on their way, and they touch the path, and there comes a flash of light, heaven wide, and blind and kill and destroy some. But that show up all earth below of leagues and leagues. Is it not so? Well, I shall explain. To begin, have you ever studied the philosophy of crime? Yes and no. You, Jonathan? Oh, you, John? Yes, for it is study of insanity. You know, Madamina, for crime touch you not. Not by once still your mind works true, and argue not a peculiarly ad universal. There is this oh my gosh, precuria, oh my god, mouth. One second, I'm gonna take a sip. cruelty in criminals. It is so constant in all countries and at all times that even police who knows not so much from the philosophy comes to know its empirical that it is is to be empiric. The criminal always work at one crime. That is the true criminal who seems predestined to crime, and who will, for none other, this criminal has not fully man-brained. He is clever and cunning and resourceful, but he be not of man stature as to brain. He be of child brain in much. Now this criminal of ours is predestined to crime also. He too have child brain, and it is of the child to do what have been done. The little bird, the little fish, the little animal learning not by principle, by empirically, and when he learned to do so, then there is to him the ground to start from and to do more. Dos posto, said Archimedes. Give me a fulcrum, and I shall move the world. To do once is the fulcrum whereby child brain become man brain, and until he have the purpose to do more, he continue to do the same again every time, as he have done before. Oh, my dear, I see that your eyes are open, and that you are the lightning flash showing all the leaves. For Mrs. Hawkers began to clap her hands, and her eyes sparkled. He went on. Now you shall speak. Tell us two dry men of science what you see with those bright eyes. He took her hand and held it whilst he spoke, his fingers and thumb closed on her pulse, as though instinctively and unconsciously as she spoke. The Count is a criminal, and of criminal type. Nordun and Lombroso would so classify him, and qua criminal he is of an imperfectly formed mind. Thus, in difficulty he has to seek resources in habit. His past is a clue, and the one page of it that we know, and that from his own lips tells that once before, when what Mrs. Morris would call a tight place, he went back to his own country from the land that he had tried to invade, and thrice without losing purpose, prepare himself for a new effort. He came again better equipped for his work and won. So he came to London to invade a new land, and he was beaten. And when all hope of success was lost, and his existence is danger, he fled back over the sea to his home, just as formerly as he had fled back over the Down Bee from Turkey land. Good, good. Oh, you so clever, lady, said Van Helsing enthusiastically. I know you're not how you say that. As he stooped and kissed her hand, a moment later he said to me, as calmly as though we had been having a sick room consultation, 7-2 only, and in all this excitement I have hope. Turning to her again, he said with keen expectation, but go on, go on. There is more to tell, if you will. Be not afraid, John, and I know. I do in any case. and shall tell you if you were right. Speak without fear. I'll try to, but you will forgive me if I seem too egotistical. Nay, fear not. You must be egotist, for it is of you that we think. Then he as he is criminal, he is selfish, and as his intellect is small and his action is based on selfishness, he confined himself to one purpose. That purpose is remorseless, as he flee back over the Downby, leaving his forces to be cut to pieces. So now he is intent on being safe, careless of all. So his own selfishness frees my soul somewhat from a terrible power which he acquired over me on that dreadful night. I feel it, oh, I feel it, thank God for his great mercy. My soul is free, freer than it has been since that awful hour, and all that haunts me is that I fear lest in some trance or dream he may have used my knowledge for his ends. The professor stood up. He has to use your mind, and by it he has left us here in Varna, whilst the ship that carried him rushed through enveloping fog up to Galatz, where doubtless he had made preparations for escaping from us, but it shall bind only so far, and it may be that as ever in its God's province, that the very thing that the evil doers must reckon for his selfish good turns out to be his chiefest harm. The hunter is taken in his own snare, as the great psalmist says, for now that he thinks he is free from every trace of us all, and that he has escaped us with so many hours to him, then his selfish child brain will whisper him to sleep. He thinks too that he has cut himself off from knowing your mind. There can be no knowledge of him to you. There is where he failed. That terrible baptist of blood which he given you makes you free to go to him in spirit, as you have as yet done in your times of freedom, when the sun rise and set. At such times you go by my volition and not by his. This power to good of you and others. You have won from your suffering at his hands. This is now all more precious, that he knows it not, and to guard himself, have even cut himself off from his knowledge of where. We, however, are not selfish, and we believe that God is with our through all this blackness. And these many dark hours we shall follow him, and we shall not flinch, even if we peril ourselves that we become like him. Friend John, this has been a great hour, and it have done much to advance us on our way. You must be scribed and write him all down, so that when the others return from their work, you can give it to them. Then they shall know as we do. And so I have written in it whilst we wait their return. And Mrs. Hawker has written with typewriter all since she brought the MS to us. Nice. And that is chapter 24th and 25th. And now I will take a break. So it will be, well, a little bit less than 2 hours. It will be 1 hour and 45 minutes. Then I am gonna resume the streaming, and then hopefully, well, hopefully it's, well, I'm gonna read until I finish, because this is gonna be the final 2 chapters of this book, you guys. Isn't that exciting? We're finally gonna learn how the book ends. So yeah, in the meantime, make sure to eat something, or like, take a snack, or just relax or unwind until the stream returns. But in the meantime, please enjoy yourself and take care, hatchlings. Bye bye.